Welcome to this very special series brought to you by Straight to the Source and Food South Australia, with support from the Department of Trade and Investment.
We're coming to you today from the traditional lands of the Kaurna people, and we'd like to begin by paying our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and we extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today.
We've taken our studio on the road to Adelaide, where we're catching up with 10 exciting producers from regions across South Australia to find out what puts them at the forefront of creativity and innovation in food production.
It's been really fantastic to spend time in South Australia over the last few days. It's really reinforced the diversity that's on offer here and the outstanding quality across the board.
You can feel the connection and collaboration between producers, and it's really wonderful because it makes them so much stronger together.
Yeah, we've had and heard some fantastic conversations with producers over the last few days, and we're really looking forward to sharing their stories with you.
And it's been mighty delicious. Let's get started.
Today's guest is Lucy Dodd from Lowan Park Produce. Welcome to our pop-up Adelaide studio, Lucy. I'd love to start the conversation by asking you to tell us a little bit about your business.
Thanks, Lucy. It's a pleasure to be with you. As you said, I own Lowan Park Produce, and we are a farming family. We've been on our farm for 100 years, and the main thing we do under our brand is raise pasture-raised chicken and sell that under that brand of Lowan Park Produce. So it's a mix of farming and food business because it's not just commodity sales.
And so you said the farm's been in the family for a really long time, but the business is just new, is that correct?
The chicken business, yeah. So the business that I run on the farm, that's really new. We've only been at a commercial level since the beginning of COVID, really.
Pre-COVID. There's like pre-COVID and post-COVID, isn't there? It's like this defining moment in time for so many people and so many businesses.
Yeah.
But tell us what brought you back to the farm. So did you grow up on the farm? Did you move away and come back? And what was the process behind that journey?
Okay. So I grew up on the farm. And loved it. As children, we were not encouraged to be on the farm. We were encouraged to see the world and do what suited us, as opposed to an expectation of...
Go and spread your wings.
Exactly. There was no expectation we had to be on the farm. So I did that. I did a university degree in business and literally travelled the world, but always had that connection to the land and environmentalism and sustainability. So I actually moved into the Environment Department here in South Australia and had a career in environmental management and sustainability, and then sustainable agriculture. So there was always then the link to the farm, and when as a family we spoke about what would happen to the farm, in a succession plan,
yeah,
or whether we'd sell the farm. I never wanted to sell the farm, and it got to a stage where I went, well, if what do I do? I either perhaps manage the farm from afar, but began to see through sustainable agriculture policy and helping other farmers that actually there's a way that maybe I could get back on the farm and see myself as a farmer and having a farming future that was different to mainstream, different to broadacre cropping or mass commodity, something that was much more connected to the consumers and a regenerative process. So
connected to the land,
and
course,
connected to the land, definitely. The fact that we have the land in our family for nearly 100 years, I want to make sure we can keep having that land in our family for the next 100 years and farm it productively and sustainably.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because succession planning is such a big conversation for farming families because, like you say, there's a lot of children that don't want to feel this obligation to come back to the farm. So it does need to be a choice. Did you feel that you had been teaching people what to do and you also wanted to put into practice what you'd been teaching others?
Yeah, ultimately. So initially I couldn't see quite where I fitted into the farming world. And so that was probably a barrier for me coming back. But yeah, starting to see the sustainable agricultural practices going on around the world and helping other farmers to be more productive, I could see those opportunities. And especially in the link to the business was how is it that we could support two families on the farm.
Right, okay.
So through another enterprise such as the chickens, so that I could be there as well as Dad.
So you introduced pasture-raised chickens to the farm and to and created this new brand around that, which is the Lowan Park Produce
So our
brand.
farm name. is Lowan Park,
Right.
which is where Lowan Park Produce comes from.
Right.
A lot of people just call them Lucy's chickens.
That's
But, I wanted to have a brand
Lucy's
that we
chickens or Lucy's chooks?
Oh, both. But I did want to have a brand that enables us to grow with it. So we also grow beef and do cropping. Right. So it was that vision that said it could be more than just chickens as we go along. But, I introduced the chickens. It's funny, my grandparents had chickens on the farm, layer hens, and still, I guess, free range. They had quite a lot of space. But it was never something initially that I went, I'll farm and be a chicken farmer. But actually probably my first job was having laying hens and selling the eggs. And so coming back on and go, actually, yes, we could have chickens, but use them, grow them out in the paddock and where they help fertilise the land for us and help to heal the land, as well as having beautiful tasting meat.
And of course, that was probably just a natural part of farming back in the day of your grandparents and parents, because it was just this multi-species approach to the land.
And each had farming.
Each had a place in the cycle. So South Australia has so many distinct regions, and each of those communities are so vibrant and connected, but then it's got this overarching connectivity across it. But tell us a little bit about the Limestone Coast and the region that you live and work within.
The Limestone Coast has been a really strong agricultural area for, over 100 years. But what I love about it is the diversity of what's actually grown there. And it's really a hidden treasure in a sense of we are building its brand now. I'm a member of a Limestone Coast agribusiness cluster called Proudly Limestone Coast, which is all about building the brand of the Limestone Coast and helping people to understand not just our brilliant wines, because we've got the Coonawarra as well as 4 other wine regions, but also our excellent food. So I grow chicken, but we've got excellent red meat, beef and lamb, Wagyu in our area, strawberries, dairies. The list is endless.
Mayora Stations in the
Limestone
Coast.
Scott
well, yeah.
Ananda Organic have some awesome capers that you just don't think about coming from the Limestone Coast. Olive oil and Pendleton Estate. There's such a rich range of actual products. And so starting to tell that story, it's not just a wine region, but actually we've grown some awesome produce. Our seafood,
vibrant and diverse.
The rock lobster industry is awesome in the Limestone Coast.
Well, we'll pop a link into the show notes. So if anybody wants to find out more about the Limestone Coast, head there and they can have a look.
Thank you.
Okay. And so the chickens are free to roam. How do you protect them from predators and how do you achieve that free range without, putting them at risk?
That's right. So we call them pasture raised. So they are in chicken tractors or chicken hotels, we call them. So they are protected from the foxes way. 5-star with and electric netting and maremas. So there's a lot of security going on. But we move those pens every day. So they get access to fresh ground every day, and they leave the fertiliser behind for us. So they're not if you imagine a free range layer hen, it is a little bit different to that. They've still got plenty of space, but they're within their hotel, and that hotel gets moved onto fresh ground.
And so you're getting eggs from the chickens and you're also doing meat, or is it just meat?
Just meat. Just meat at the moment. We'll probably get some layer hens and either sell them under our brand or perhaps under contractor brand because of the regenerative nature of chooks, but the brand at the moment and our main thing is the meat.
Great.
It's a different breed of chicken.
So I was just going to ask, what breed of chicken are they?
Yeah, they're a cob hybrid. So most of the commercial hens that you have as meat birds in Australia are the same or a similar mix. The breeding of them moves pretty fast, so they do.
They grow fast.
They grow fast,
so you can
but
get
also
them to market fast.
Exactly, and the chicken industry globally has changed massively in the last 50 years in the speed with which they grow and the muscle that they have, and that's why they're so different today than your layer hens. But even the breeding of those chickens is evolving very fast too.
And so really what you're looking to achieve is a breed that is suitable to be free range, and that grows slower. Mm-hmm. So from your perspective, it is a longer growing period, and it does take longer to get to market for your chickens versus commercial chicken farming. But the flavour difference
exactly
is what is distinct, I can only imagine.
Yeah, it's amazing to think that the only difference of the animals is in their lifestyle, having a healthy life, a slightly longer life, more movement, so much more muscle texture. Being the same breed of chickens, that actually, even though they've still got a short life, it is longer than most commercial chicken farms, but it's only in their life that makes a difference to the flavour, the texture.
Yeah. And are you processing them on the property?
We'd love to. We're not at the moment. South Australia still has quite a lot of barriers to on-farm abattoirs. It is changing across Australia and across the world, and I'd love to do that. But only being 2.5 years in, we've got to get the rest of the production right first. But that would be one of my next big projects, would be a small on-farm abattoir. So
in 2 years, you've really achieved quite a lot. You've established this brand that is well recognised in the region and the state. Mm-hmm. What is your vision for the brand moving forward? I can see that you've got the meat chickens. You've also got some other products. You've got broth and chicken liver pate. So where do you sell your products? And what's, that you've got the on-farm role. You wear two hats essentially, don't you? You've got the on-farm role, and then you've got the role of marketing this business to consumers and the wholesale market. So just talk us through that a little bit.
So yeah, I definitely feel like I wear a lot of hats. The farming side of it, because also I'm active on the rest of the farm too. It's not just the chickens. And then with Lowan Park Produce, doing all the marketing, all the sales, physically taking them to the abattoir, etc. So there's quite a lot of work with that as well. So here in South Australia, which is where we're based, I have a range of butchers, some restaurants. I also have 3 farmers markets where we can where we sell our products, and direct to customer. So we've got a couple of channels that we utilise. So still looking to grow that and grow that brand, because we really love the concept of buying local and having good quality produce from your own area. But still, I'm almost halfway between Adelaide and Melbourne, the farm, and Adelaide is our main market here in South Australia. But seeing it move into Victoria or into Melbourne as well would definitely be growth for me. And then looking at how we better utilise the whole animal. So I do have a chicken bone broth, a pasture-raised chicken bone broth, and I'd love to see that product taken to more of a retail scale.
Yep.
Because it could. It's the meat is a great product, but it is a fresh product that is a little bit trickier with its shelf life to send to Sydney or to send to overseas. But a good quality chicken bone broth really could grow really well or sell really well. So we're exploring the opportunities there.
And it's such a great product. I think people seek it out because as much as it is a fairly straightforward thing to make, it's something that people just don't have time for. So from a convenience perspective, it really ticks all the boxes of a wholesome, healthy, convenient product to have in your fridge or your freezer just to reach in and grab when you need it. What other value-add products do you make? The chicken liver pate?
Yeah, make the chicken liver pate. That's reasonably small in my product range. And it's primarily because we had excess liver. So I was like, right, what do we have to do with it? I'd much prefer to sell the livers fresh and have others who are better chefs than I, because I'm already, I'm the farmer and the food business owner. I'm not the chef. So we've actually started a bit of a partnership with another small producer who really excels in making products from artisan producers, pasture-raised producers, where my liver is being used in some of their products for chicken liver pate. So that's exciting.
Great. So it's that collaboration is helping you use all parts of the animal and mean that there's no waste, and then lucky consumers are getting access to those delicious products. So let's talk a little bit about that direct-to-consumer engagement, because that's a really important part of your business. And I know that you've got a big focus on creating and sustaining regional communities. So just talk a little bit about what that means to you as a business.
Yeah. So I could probably make more money if I was only interested in farming and getting the best return on what we're producing. But what's really important for me is also sharing the story of what it means to farm with our consumers and having Australians understanding where their food comes from. So that's where it's really important for me to be able to sell direct to the customer. Farmers markets are great for that, but also online to share that story so that people understand the effort that goes into farming, that actually it is a really complex process with a lot of risk and not always at reward and return.
Yeah.
But in saying that, one of the reasons for having Lowan Park Produce as a specific brand is potentially getting a better margin on what we produce as well, because we can sell it direct to consumer. We're not taking the price offered at the cattle auction, for example. So that, that helps. But it's being able to share and
share your story.
Share our story, but also to support a thriving regional community. I love the fact that I employ staff. It keeps more people in our small town of Bordertown. It gets people out of the city. I'd much rather see bigger regional towns than what we have in Australia is the emphasis on our 5 or 6 major capital cities. And what that means right now is I need to do a lot more driving to get my product because I've got to come to the major capital cities. There's not really enough of a market within 100, 200 kilometres of where I live.
It's been 2 years since you've started the business, and looking back on it now, what are some of the challenges that you've faced that you might not have anticipated 2 years ago when you got started?
Mm-hmm. So many. I did start just before COVID, or started my first weekly slaughter was, I think, 2 weeks before we had our first COVID lockdown. So I'd sort of been in business, but not at a proper scale. I think I thought, well, my vision was to sell mostly to restaurants where provenance was really important for them, where they really valued the use of the whole animal, but where the food came from and sharing that story. So 2 weeks into a commercial scale program, and the hospitality industry closes. So I had to really rethink and pivot about where I was selling, what I was doing. I did already have one farmer's market up at that time. And so that was very, very beneficial to have that already, and that definitely grew. And then the focus on butchers also grew. So that was certainly a challenge. I think the challenge of production as a small-scale brand. So you are limited to what's available in the marketplace for, in my case, for slaughtering. There's only one custom poultry abattoir in South Australia, so I have to use them. And then thinking about the packaging, and then being limited with some of the packaging because I don't have my own production facility. And timeframes as well. It's a fresh product, so it's something that might last 9 days from slaughter. So how do you get it to market on time or in a timely fashion so it can also be fresh on the shelf for a certain period of time? So those are some of the things I probably was naive to before getting into the chickens. From having the farming background, I sort of was familiar with the risks of growing animals and knowing that would be a big learning curve. But some of the food business side of it has been the biggest thing for me.
Right. And what about the value proposition for consumers? Because I think the being at markets and being able to talk to consumers face to face gives you that opportunity to explain, as you said before, how difficult and complex and risky it is growing food, and that has a price associated to it. So just talk a little bit about the value proposition.
Yeah, if someone's familiar with pasture raised or grass fed for beef and sheep and understand the value that provides to animals, it's a really easy concept. But having the opportunity to explain why your chicken is double the price of most other chicken in the supermarket does take time. We still have a perception in Australia that chicken is a really cheap meat. And even though all meat and other fresh produce is increasing in price, it still sits sort of lower in the value chain. So it's not easy. I love to chat, but I'm not a natural salesperson. So you got to find the moments of being able to get that across. And I think we're in South Australia, where I have my strongest networks, we do have the ability to grow the whole pasture-raised industry. So I don't see ourselves as being in competition to each other. It's how is it that we're stronger together. How is it that we're growing the industry so that we can share the story of how our chicken and other animal products are different.
So in terms of your abilities to scale the business, is that what's next for you, and what does that look like?
It is what's next, and it's exciting on the opportunities of what scale it could be, because it could be scale into other animals, so lamb and cattle, or it could be scale into just pure size of the chickens and where the products are going to, as well as scale into the type of products. So I spoke about the chicken bone broth, and going, that's a really good opportunity for scale, but it is different because it's then into manufacturing and into probably a shelf-stable product into supermarkets. Might be specialty healthcare places.
And there's a big market for that.
There is a big market for it, but that's very different to selling a certain number of birds a week through to butchers and restaurants.
Yeah.
So probably a bit of each of those. Oh, as well as a non-farm abattoir.
Right.
So because that allows us two things. One is less stress on the birds and less stress on me on the amount of driving I have to do. But we can use some of those waste products more effectively. So on other biofertilisers for our land and that closed cycle.
And more control over the process.
And more control over the
as well.
exactly.
So you know, end to end that the quality is there the way you want it.
Exactly. And we can spend more time on the packaging and the presentation for the various channels that we have, sales channels.
And so talking about packaging, what are your aspirations in the packaging arena? Because there are so many options and, it's becoming more and more important to consumers how things are packaged and brought to market.
Yeah. Look, I would love to find a way to minimise the plastic that we have in fresh produce and meat. It is, as I understand it, and I might be naive to some of the opportunities, but it is lagging behind many of the other plastics in produce because it's wet. There's liquid involved, and a lot of the other plant-based plastics that are available now, compost a lot faster or decompose a lot faster. So I think the meat industry is lagging.
There's a lot of innovation happening in that space, so hopefully it will catch up. Hopefully
it will catch up, and hopefully, maybe some of the kelp-based products or whatever might be there. There is some really innovative side of things with packaging that I'd love to spend more time on, but I'm focused elsewhere at the moment.
Not a hat to wear.
Yeah, exactly.
So where can our listeners find your beautiful Lowan Park Produce or Lucy's Chickens or Lucy's Chooks? Where should they go to look for them?
So of course they can go to our website, which is lowanparkproduce.com.au. Currently there are 3 farmers markets that we're at, and so they're all around Adelaide. So the main one is right here at the showgrounds, Adelaide Showground Farmers Markets.
And that's weekly?
That's weekly. The Adelaide Hills Farmers Market, which is at Mount Barker, and the Mount Pleasant Farmers Market as well. And I'm there fortnightly, but the market's weekly. And then I have butchers here around Adelaide and South Australia. P&A Organics on McGill Road's the main one, as well as Meat at the Market in the Adelaide Central markets. And then the other option is through some of the restaurants that I supply.
And soon to be available in Victoria?
Let's hope so.
Fingers crossed.
I'm definitely open to that. So if anyone in Victoria would like to have Lowan Park Produce in the fridge, they can contact me. I do deliveries. So if there's a big enough order, I will deliver into Victoria for sure.
Okay, well, that's great to know as well. So if there are any listeners interested, they can either get in touch with Lucy directly or give Tonya and I a call or send us an email at straight to the source. So the final question I'd love to ask you is, how does being involved with an industry association like Food SA support your business?
It might sound cliche, but it is the contacts and the networks. Because there's questions you might have or ideas you might have that are not particularly articulate, but when you're having a conversation with someone else, they say, well, go talk to Bob. He knows more about that. Or have you considered this? The packaging ideas. Others have been exposed to things that you're not. And then you've got the support of the industry staff or in our case, Food SA staff, that you can ring up and say, this is what I'm thinking. Where would you send me?
And it is important, isn't it? Because when you're on your farm and you're busy in your business, it's sometimes hard to know where to reach out for those questions and to bounce those ideas off, and also just to know sometimes that the challenges you're facing you're not alone in, and also when you want to celebrate a win or a high, you've got someone that you can go, hey, I've just achieved this. Isn't it great?
Yeah.
So it is that community.
It is that community, and there's a range of small producers that I know now across the Limestone coast in South Australia that I do feel really connected to. Their business is quite different to mine and what they're focusing on, but it's still the same issues. How's production going? What's going on with packaging? What's going on with your markets? Who's stocking your produce? How are you going?
Yeah. And that's what we love about South Australia is it's got these really distinct regions and communities, but then it's got this connectivity across the state that is engaged and connected. And it's really fantastic to see new, exciting brands such as Lowan Park Produce coming into the market and growing. And we really look forward to seeing the growth that the business has ahead. So please stay in touch with us and let us know how things are going. And we really look forward to seeing your products in more butchers' shops and on more restaurant menus. And Victoria, here she comes.
Thanks so much, Lucy.